So I've asked Brian to come to kind of pick up off of the message that we started with early in this semester around this sense of belonging for our students, really thinking about our own personal roles and how we exist in the world and in the institution. And so he's got an inspiring story, and he's just going to spend 20, 25 minutes with us, share some slides, share some quotes, share a little bit about his own life, and hopefully leave you with additional information and content to think about as you move forward with your work, not only with each other and for each other, but with our students. So without further ado, my very dear friend and brother, Brian Corpening.
Clapping now. So first of all, before I start, I want to recognize my friend Ken. And to be honest with you, I'm here because he's my friend. Also talk to you, but I came just to see him. Life is about relationships. And I have many people I know, but very few friends. And Ken's one of those friends. And you know, we're different. So this whole conversation, briefly as it is to talk about transformation and inclusion and belonging. But I want to talk about in terms of my friendship with Ken, for instance, in terms of how we're different. Now, in case you didn't know, I'm an African American, and he's not. That's a difference.
The vitamins aren't working, I'm just saying.
But then again, I don't know, man. You know, we might go on DNA.com and might find out that we are actually related. I'm 15 years older than him. I know it doesn't look that way.
Again, the vitamins, you know.
Good genetics. Good genetics. Ken's good looking. I'm better looking. So we have differences. But from these differences, you know, we actually broaden our perspective by relating to each other. So you know, our differences make us stronger friends. You know, we think differently in many ways. We think similarly in a lot of ways. But those differences kind of help us understand how, you know, our place, our role, who we are. So a little bit about myself. I'm the product of Tom and Vera Corpening. Tom and Vera Corpening, this June will be married 62 years. My dad is from North Carolina originally, went in the Army. First of all, I want to honor Ivanhoe Love over here, who also spent 30 years in the Army and who retired a command sergeant major like my dad did. So my dad went in the Army in 1947. Now, for those of you who know your history, 1947 is significant in military history or even the life of this country because the executive order to desegregate the armed forces wasn't done until 1948. So my dad went in the Army and was still segregated. In 1948, he marched in front of Douglas MacArthur in Japan. In 51, he was in Korea. He met my mother in 1952 when he was in Boston. And so they've known each other since 1952, or actually were boyfriend and girlfriend since 1952 and got married in 1956. So I'm a product of them. My mom and dad tell a story about when my brother and I were born. We were born in Monterey, California, Fort Worth, California. We didn't see any other relatives until we were like 4 and 5 years old. And so we were traveling across country, and we got to Memphis, Tennessee. Now understand, my dad's in the Army, and he's been in Korea and other places. And he tell the story about they couldn't stay at a regular Holiday Inn or a Howard Johnson. This is in Memphis in 1961 or 62. So they had to stay at a lower level, dilapidated hotel in the black part of town. So when they went into this hotel, they were concerned about this hotel being a fire trap. So my dad says to my mom, turns to my mom and says, in case of a fire, you grab the money, I'll grab the boys. So you think about that for a minute. This is a man who fought for his country and had to worry about existing in dilapidated conditions, trying to take his family east to meet his parents, my grandparents. But my mom and dad are not bitter. They're thankful people. You know, my mother is a stewardess in her AME church. My dad reads the Bible every day, and they're great people. But they instilled in me this sense of curiosity about life about embracing people who are different than me. So a little bit about my professional history. So I started my job at Morrisville College, the college with a heart in the heart of New York, 30 miles east of Syracuse, a lot like Seward. It's a 2-year residential ag and tech, about 2,000 students, same type of programs you have here. So that's where I got my start. I was the assistant director of an educational opportunity program, which is a New York State TRIO program. I left there and I went to Hamilton College, which is like night and day from Morrisville College. Hamilton College is a private liberal arts college where students go to Switzerland for their spring break. Of course, I went to Syracuse for my spring break. So. But, you know, totally like night and day. From there, I moved to Illinois State University, where I was at the director of the Multicultural Center, and I taught African American history. And that was the first time I started my a doctoral program in history. Well, a friend of mine came along who I knew in New York, and he told me he had gotten his job as a president of a college in Boston. I said, okay. He said, I want you to come join me as chief of staff. And I said, okay, I'll do that. So that was the end of my doctoral program, but I was in Boston. Now, understand Boston has relevance to my life because of my mom and my dad, and I have a lot of family in Boston. Went to Boston, and then from there to St. Louis Community College, where I was the Dean of Student Development. And 9 years into my time there, a young man who was a firecracker, knew everything, was smart as all get out, came into my life. That was Ken Trasker. So I left there, and now I'm at University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center. Now I say all that because we're all family. Now, I can tell you this, I'm at this point in time in life where I'm thinking, you know, maybe, you know, it's time for something else. Sarah Lawrence Lightfoot, who's a sociologist at Harvard, and she's a MacArthur Genius recipient, wrote this book called The Third Chapter. I don't know if any of you have heard that book. I encourage those of you who are between the ages of 50 and 75 to pick it up. That's me. So I started reading this book, The Third Chapter. And the third chapter really is about what do you do. Your first chapter is you from ages infant to 18 or 20. The second chapter is really when you become into the profession and you begin your career. And then the third chapter is what do you do after that? So I'm at that point. So I mean, even though my friend here is taping this may end up somewhere, I don't really care because, you know, this really is about thinking about what is it you really want to do, what really connects with you. And I've been in this profession since 1984. Now you think about that, that's a lot of years. And I've seen a lot. I've seen everything from, you know, all kinds of academic programs, the latest buzzwords, the latest theories. I even saw a dead body. You remember the dead body at Seward County?
Yes, I do.
Yes. It's a true story. So I'm going home. So I've been going to intersperse some stories with some thoughts and all that. I'm going home one day at St. Louis Community College, and I'm driving by the pond on the campus, and I see something in the pond. So, you know, curiosity, I stopped my car. So I go up to the pond, and I'm looking, that looked like, is that either a mannequin or a dead body? I couldn't tell, and I wasn't going out in the water to find out. So I called campus police, and the fire department came, and it was a dead body. I think she had gotten disoriented and she ended up in the pond, but it's a true story. So I've gone through all these things to say that I've gone through transformations. And we all go through transformations. I mean, there's a Chinese proverb that says, a person cannot cross the same river twice because both the person and the river are different the second time. So we always change and evolve. And so for me, thanks, sir.
Push the connection.
Oh my goodness, Ken. Yeah, there you go. We'll do it the old-fashioned way. Show your talent, Dr. Trask. There you go. So, for me though, it is about transformation and how to change and transform. And you know, and this right here is part of one of your movers, about inclusion and civility. And to me, inclusion is about transformation. How you can create an inclusive culture. Now, My job at OUHSC is I'm assistant provost for community partnerships and diversity. And I've always been asked, because everybody asks you, what do you do? What do you do? I prefer to answer it, what am I trying to do? Which is a difference. So what I'm trying to do is create access and opportunity throughout my career. I've been thinking about this as part of this third chapter I'm trying to go through, and when I'm thinking about what I want to do next. So I've always thought about what it is that I have done my entire career. What's my career been about? And I can reflect on, I should have been further along in this, or I could have done that. But my career has always been about giving people opportunity and access. So young people can access their dreams and their aspirations. And communities can be transformed by the opportunity to take place in something that's on a college campus. I had the great honor and pleasure of riding up to Garden City yesterday with the men and women's basketball team. It was a flashback, because I thought about the times I was at Morrisville College and other places where young people come together who are pursuing their passion, who are passionate about what they do. Now, they may not understand what they want to become career-wise or what they want to do after basketball, but the passion of basketball means that much to them that they just feel joyful. I had a great time. I fell asleep going back and they took a picture of that. 'Cause I'm old and I was tired, so. But that's what it's all about, to connect with kids and understand why they're doing what they're doing, why they're here. Because most of them don't know that they're going to be transformed by the experience. They're going to rely on you to help them do that. It doesn't matter what particular program they're in. They're going to be transformed by the experience of being on a college campus. So they may come here wanting to play basketball, but they'll leave being something else. And they'll be better for it because of what you do. So for me, that's really what this is all about, inclusion. Inclusion, you know, in buzzwords, because I have a serious issue with buzzwords, per se. I think what it really comes down to is how people relate to each other, how people value each other, how people respect each other. And difference is good. You know, growing up a military brat like Ken's father was in civil service, but he lived overseas. You see things differently. You've been exposed to different things. You know, I lived in Germany for 3 years. My dad got stationed in Iran under the Shah, and we lived in Iran. My mother and father, you know, we lived all over the world. And it helped me understand that there's more to life than just my existence, my culture, where I am. And you look at liberals changing. You know, you're an HSI, right? Hispanic Serving Institution. That means you have to have a significant population to get that designation. That means change. I see these new elementary schools when I drove in, and I was lost. And that doesn't happen just by the fact that people who are native to liberal are you know, producing and growing that much. You got an influx of people who are new to the community, right? This is also call and response too. So don't tell my mama I said that. This is the minister in me. So, right? Right. Thank you. So that means right there that things have changed. That's not a bad thing. I mean, that's a good thing, because the world has come to you and you've come to the world. So the question really is, how are we transformed by that? Because we are. And you guys have acknowledged that in your movers. I actually typed it today. But I know that because my good friend Ken Trask has been telling me this. So this is your world. There's nothing wrong with that. I want to also say that OUHSC has had a problem with that. I can say that even if it gets on tape, I don't care. Because when I went there 12 years ago, my purpose was really brought there to address the underrepresentation at the Health Sciences Center campus. To understand that at OUHSC, this column really bothers me, but that's okay. At OUHSC, we're the #1 provider and trainer of health providers in the state of Oklahoma. You know, College of Pharmacy, College of Nursing, College of Dentistry, College of Allied Health, College of Medicine, the Graduate College, and the College of Public Health. One of 4 schools in the country that has all 7 health science colleges in one location. So we provide training for everybody. You know, Oklahoma, I mean, let's be honest, It's not one of the more healthier states in the country. It's like, if not for Mississippi, we'd be last. Thank you, Mississippi. So, but as part of that are these issues related to like the disparities. So some populations are more healthy than other populations. So how do you address that? So what we decided to do was address it from a standpoint of creating a pipeline, because we knew the traditional approaches to education was not going to work. They hadn't worked before that. And as Einstein said, the definition of insanity is trying to do the same thing each time and expect a different result. It doesn't happen that way. So we decided to try something different. So we understand this process, but I have colleagues now who say, that's not my job. Our role is to wait till kids come to us. When they come to us, they come to us. Which is, okay, theoretically that's true, but it doesn't change the dynamic. Then you'll still have underrepresentation. You'll still have the lack of health providers that don't look like the population they're supposed to serve. So that's why it's important, to understand that it's bigger than that we have to think differently, that you have to take seriously your role of what you do, because all of your educators, I don't care what you do, you all impact on kids that come to this campus. And so how you look at how you can impact on them is important, it's critical. And so this right here is to say that, it is about pushing the limit of how we see ourselves. I see myself as an educator. And I've taught, but I'm still an educator. My mom and dad were my biggest teachers. They taught me more than anybody has taught me. Not just by have your butt in by 10 o'clock, or there's consequences, a butt whipping. Or as much as saying, this is courage, this is perseverance. My mom and dad buried their oldest child when he was 17. And so they've gone through tragedy and hardship and all that, but they're still standing. And they taught me that. And that's the lesson that I've tried to impart about perseverance. That you never give up. How many of you ever heard of the Four Agreements? Don Miguel Ruiz. Get the book. It's only like 100 pages.
What's it called?
It's called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. So the first agreement that he created, so Don Miguel Ruiz was this surgeon who had this car wreck, and he had this out-of-body experience as he describes it. And from that, he decided that he was going to quit being a doctor and he wanted to become a shaman, because the tradition was in his family. And so he created this book that's called The Four Agreements. First agreement is be impeccable with your word. Use your word for truth, for love, and for power. Not to tear people down, not to gossip behind people's backs. Second agreement, don't take it personally. What someone says or does is a reflection of their reality. Only if you accept it as true does it become your reality. Third agreement, don't make assumptions. If you want to know something, go seek the information. Don't assume. Go seek the truth. And the fourth agreement, always do your best. Because your best changes from day to day. Your best is different when you're sick, and it's different than when you're well. But always do your best. And if you do those things, then you won't question yourself. You won't live in regret. So, I live by the four agreements. I try to be impeccable with my word. I don't take things personally. I don't make assumptions. I always try to do my best. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I fall off the wagon on the four agreements on a regular basis. I'm human. But I recognize my shortcut, and I get right back on it. It's a great way to live your life, because then it deals with how you relate to people in interpersonal skills. Oh, did I do that?
Oh, I did that.
Oh.
Because you got 7 minutes.
I go say, man, is that like a hit to speed it up? Okay. So, I got it, man. I got it. Thank you, brother. So in Cheyenne and Sioux culture, warrior culture, there's something that's called a contrary warrior. I don't know if any of you have ever heard that. So a contrary warrior is someone whose whole purpose is to think differently than the rest of the warrior culture. So or do things differently. So if all the warriors go into battle riding their horses the regular way, The contrary warrior goes into battle riding the horse backwards. Because they're supposed to think differently. And by thinking differently, they broaden the perspective and broaden the viewpoint of the community. So it's not this entirely this group think. It's a way for us to understand that people think differently. And people bring different things to the table. And for us to respect and to value that. So that's the contrary warrior. So we should all look for those contrary warriors in our midst and value that. Because they bring something to the table. So we shouldn't be looking for everybody to think the same way we think. First of all, it would be boring. But second of all, it's important to understand that there are different perspectives. There are different ways of looking at something. So the whole shooting at Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida was really tragic. But one of the things is we're seeing, regardless of this is not about the politics of whether or not you agree with gun control or the Second Amendment. This is about student activism. Students saying, nah, we want to change our world. You got to respect that. I don't care where you fall politically. It's not about the politics. It's about the fact that young people who are our future generations, our future, are saying, you know what, I want to challenge the way things are. You got young people here who come to the table as students who challenge the way things are, who think differently than the previous generation of students. And one of the things you realize is that we look at the millennial population and Generation Z, which is a generation of high school kids now, and they think differently. Kid and I were at the Rotary today, and they were talking about breaking down this new refashioning of redesign. Yeah, thank you. This is interactive, so you can always jump in anytime I want to.
5 minutes.
All right, thank you. Anyway, so now they're talking about this redesign of which would allow for more flexibility, because students learn differently now. And one of the questions that was asked by one of the members of the Rotary was related to his particular existence as a student, which was about 50 years ago. Times are changing, and times are different. That's about transforming and evolving and changing and developing a broader perspective, because people bring different things to the table. So that's happening here in Liberal. And so this tells about the future as it looks at it. My parents are the silent generation, as you can see, all the way down at the bottom and zeroes out to 2050. And I'm a boomer, and I'm going, as you can see too. So really what is transformation? And so I think, is how do you understand how you're transforming as individuals and professionals, but also how your institution is transforming? Because it is transforming. And then you also think about, is transformation natural? I think it is. We may not be able to touch it and identify it as such, but it does. We all go through some form of transformation. We are now. And it's also purposeful transformation too, by going through the actions that you all did with the movers that you had for 2017, 18, and the year before that. So transformation occurs regardless. And how do you know if you've been transformed? Does a lightning bolt strike you one day when you're walking across campus and you say, I've been transformed? Do you have this, road to Damascus moment where you're walking across campus, you say, I feel transformation. It's occurring. Or was that a bad lunch I had? What is transformation? It happens. Or you just wake up one morning and you say, you know what? I'm like Brian Corpening. I might want to do something different nowadays. It happens. I'm going to skip the exercise tag. But these are questions that you need to think about. In terms of what does a college look like that's committed to transformation? And what's a transformed college believe in? What type of graduates you produce. One of the things that we recognize is that we're producing students not just for Liberal Kansas or the Southwest Kansas region. You're producing students for the world. And there's a serious level of skills that they need to have, not just the tangible skills or the academic skills they may get in the classroom, but those skills about how to interact with people who are different from you, how to have cultural humility, how to have cultural flexibility. Everybody talks the latest buzzword is cultural competence. What's that mean? The ability to interact with someone who's different than you and feel comfortable doing it. I mean, these are things that are occurring, so the students you're producing are not just for here, they're for the world. And we are transformed when we are. So I want to read this real quick. So Paulo Coelho is a Brazilian writer. And a great book for anyone to read is called The Alchemist. And The Alchemist is a great book. It's a book about this young shepherd boy in Spain who has his transformation as he embarks upon this trip. But I want to read this one page about this story he wrote. And actually it's part of his blog, which is right up there as the source. It's called The Lost Horse. Many years ago in a poor Chinese village, there lived a peasant with his son. His only material possession, apart from some land and a small straw hut, was a horse he had inherited from his father. One day the horse ran off, leaving the man with no animal with which to till the land. His neighbors, who respected him greatly for his honesty and diligence, came to his house to say how much they regretted what had happened. He thanked them for their visit, but asked, "How can you know what has happened has been a misfortune in my life?" Someone mumbled to a friend, "He can't accept reality. Let him think what he wants, as long as he isn't saddened by what happened." And the neighbors went off pretending to agree with what they had heard. A week later, the horse returned to the stable, but it was not alone. It brought with it a fine mare for company. Upon hearing this, the villagers, who were flustered since they now understood the answer the man had given them, returned to the peasant's house in order to congratulate him on his good fortune. "Before you only had one horse, and now you have two. Congratulations," they said. "Many thanks for your visit and for all your concern," answered the peasant. "But how can you know that what has happened has been a blessing in my life?" Disconcerted and thinking he must be going mad, the neighbors went off and on the way commented, "Does he really not understand that God has sent him a gift?" A month later, the peasant's son decided to tame the mare, but the animal unexpectedly reared up and the boy fell and broke his leg. The neighbors returned to the peasant's house bringing gifts for the wounded boy. The mayor of the village offered his condolences to the father, saying that all were very sad at what had happened. The man thanked them for their visit and their concern, but asked, "How can you know what has happened has been a misfortune in my life?" They were all astonished to hear this, since no one could be in any doubt that the accident of the son was a real tragedy. As they left the peasant's house, some said to others, "He really has gone mad. His only son might limp forever, and he is still in doubt about whether that what had happened is a misfortune." Some months passed, and Japan declared war on China. The emperor's envoys traveled throughout the land in search for healthy young men to be sent to the battlefront. Upon arrival in the village, they recruited all the young men except the peasant's son, whose leg was broken. None of the young men returned alive. The son recovered, the two animals bred, and the offspring was sold at a good price. The peasant began visiting his neighbors to console and help them, so they had all had times been so caring regarding him. Whenever one of them complained, the peasant said, "How do you know it is a misfortune?" If anyone became overjoyed, he asked, "How do you know it's a blessing?" And the men in the village understood, and beyond appearances, life has other meanings. So how do you know it's a misfortune? What's a blessing? That's what the peasant was saying. His son broke his leg, he's going to be crippled for life. That's a misfortune. How do you know it's a misfortune? Because his son wasn't able to be drafted to go to war and die in war. And so it became a blessing. How do you know it's a blessing? So a different perspective. So what we may think is a blessing may not be a blessing for someone else, depending on how you look upon it. And that's the story of the lost horse. But transformation is not just about difference, it's also about similarity, because at the end of the day, we all have more in common than we know. So the golden rule from Jesus' teaching, right, in the New Testament. Well, believe it or not, it's also the same golden rule in other religions. As you can see, if you can see that far. But Judaism, you should not take vengeance or bear a grudge against your kinfolk. Love your neighbor as yourself. In Taoism, regard your neighbor's gain as your own gain, and your neighbor's loss as your own loss. Hinduism, by making the Dharma right conduct. Your main focus, treat others as you treat yourself. Confucianism, what you do not wish for yourself, do not do to others. Buddhism, hurt not others in ways that yourself would find hurtful. Islam, none of you truly believes until he wishes for his brother what he wishes for himself. And Baha'i, blessed is he who preferred his brother before himself. They all have golden rules. So we're not as different as we think once we get to understand each other. So I always end things that I do with this quote by Emerson. But I want to end with a quick little piece. So we have, at OUHSC, we have a program called the Future Health Sciences Partnership Program. It's our 12th year. It starts with kids in the 5th grade. And we bring them to our campus to introduce them to the health sciences, to supplement the science they're getting in school. And we've graduated 4 groups of kids. And our oldest group of kids are now ready to go to medical school. As a matter of fact, I got an email the other day from a young lady who I've known since the 5th grade. She got accepted to OU Medical School. And she sent me this email saying, thank you for everything that your program has done for me. I wouldn't be here and getting ready to go to medical school if it had not been for your program. I said, great. So I emailed her back. I said, if you really want to honor us, when you become a doctor, reach out and mentor some other kids. Give them what we gave you. And that would be the greatest honor you can give us in recognition in terms of what we've done for you. So, understand that success is just that. If one child is breathing easy because you have lived, this is to have succeeded. So, I want to leave this with you. Thank you for having me here. I honor you because all of you are doing incredible work. You transform thousands and thousands of lives. And when Ken talks about the hard budget cuts, Oklahoma's getting ready to go through $1 billion budget cut because we have $1 billion shortfall. And sometimes you may not feel appreciated, realize that you are. And I thank you and honor you for what you do every single day. So thank you for listening to me for the few minutes I had. And if I can ever be any help to you, Ken knows how to get a hold of me. I don't think I'll be at OU much longer because I want to do something different. And those of you who ever read John Steinbeck, there's a book called Travels with Charlie, where he traveled the country with his dog. I don't have a dog, but I plan to do something like that. So if I can ever be any help to you, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. So with that being said, we're a little over. I apologize for that. I owe you 6 minutes. You can hold me to it.
Well, you can charge it to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can pay it though.
So I've been reading this book, and I'm going to give you a quote to end because I think it's really important. And to me, it talking about change, talking about transformation, talking about sense of belonging. There's 3 pieces here, but I'm only going to read one, and I'm just going to leave it with you. I'm not going to explain it. I'm not going to try to explain it. There is an infinite, changeless reality beneath the world of change. There is an infinite, changeless reality beneath the world of change. Think about that. Have a great evening. Enjoy your families this evening. Enjoy whatever you're doing. I appreciate your time, and you know I appreciate each of you beyond what I could ever explain. You all do amazing work, and just echoing what Ryan said, thank you, my friend, for being here and giving us a little bit of your wisdom. Thank you, Ivanhoe. He was a special guest tonight. This afternoon wanted to check out the program, so we appreciate you. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks. See you next time.